Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Sounded like you forgot the intro that you've done approximately 400 times at the start of this show. So I'm great. How are you?
I am awesome as well. No, I didn't forget it. I was just being emphatic and measured. I'm trying to just become more professional or professional. I don't know which one it is, but I'm going to be one of those. No. So, yeah, I am here. You're here. We're all here. You know who else is soon to be here, Tom?
I don't know, Tony. Give me a minute to mull it over.
God, let's start the show over. This is the worst show. This is already terrible. 50 seconds in, and I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this show. I don't want to do shows with you anymore. None of them. No morning scoops. No Buckeye Weeklies. No, Quinn Ewers watch. No more JT Tuimoloau watch. No more emergency podcast. No more instant reactions. Nothing. But since we're here,
I have good news. The JT Tuimoloau watch is over. He's already in Columbus, and the Quinn Ewers watch also over. Because guess what? Guess who's coming to Columbus, Tony? It's Quinn Ewers.
Quinn Ewers?
Yes,
it is Quinn Ewers. Oh, and for those people who do not know, Quinn Ewers is a quarterback from Texas, the number one quarterback in the nation from the 2022 class, who has reclassified to 2021, and will soon be enrolling so that he can take part in the NIL goodies that the Texas High School Association is not allowing their student athletes to take part in without ruining their eligibility. So, with many, many hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table, it looks like Quinn Ewers is on his way. In fact, he has already tweeted out that he is on his way. So once you see it in tweet form, you know it's real.
Everything on Twitter is always correct. I think that's been my main takeaway for the last 10 years or so. So yeah, if it's on Twitter, it's got to be real.
The fun part, Tom, or not, maybe not the fun part. We talked to the quarterbacks on Tuesday, as you're listening to this, Tuesday afternoon. We will speak to the Ohio State quarterbacks and quarterbacks coach Corey Dennis. However, because Quinn Ewers is not enrolled, Corey Dennis won't be able to say his name, won't be able to talk about him, may be able to answer vaguely because I'm sure the questions will attempt to be asked, but he will probably just say, I can't speak to that. I can only talk about who is here, that sort of thing. And then also we're supposed to talk to the quarterbacks, whom we haven't talked to. I don't think we've ever talked to Kyle McCord. We talked to CJ Stroud and Jack Miller in January of 2020 when they enrolled, and we were granted an audience with the early enrollee freshmen then. So we may finally get to talk to those three guys. And one of the most popular topics of conversation is not going to be their quarterback competition. That is one of the stories of college football. It's going to be, hey, what do you think about Quinn Ewers coming to town? And then I don't know that they can actually speak to that. We've seen players sometimes talk about recruits. I'm wondering if there will be a message from Ohio State to the quarterbacks saying, hey, you don't have to talk about them if you don't want to. But then if that message is put out there, then it almost seems like there's don't talk about Quinn Ewers, and now it kind of puts Quinn Ewers in a bad light. However, if you let them say what they want, then you might get some stuff that you don't want out there. So is it better, I don't know if it's better to just don't talk about it, but it's going to be interesting, Tom. However it happens, whatever happens, assuming it happens, we're going to talk to quarterbacks and they're going to be saying stuff and not saying stuff. And what do you think is going to happen?
Well, it's going to be one of those two things. Either they're going to be saying stuff or they're not. I think I can say that with a high degree of confidence. In case people are wondering why, you hear Ryan Day talk about guys on early signing day and they haven't enrolled. Why can you do that? And you can't do it. In this case, those guys have signed national letters of intent. As soon as you sign a national letter of intent, you're bound to that school, and that school can talk about you. The whole reason is you don't want coaches going up there and lobbying for recruits during during their weekly press conferences or whatever. That's the reason for that rule. So once you're bound by your letter of intent, then the coach can talk about you. Quinn Ewers is not signing a national letter of intent. JT Tuimoloau also is not signing a national letter of intent because He doesn't need to save his spot. Like the spot's been saved for him. He's going to enroll. Like and Tuimoloau has already enrolled, so they can talk about him now. Ewers, when he officially enrolls, which I know Tony has been fastidiously checking the OSU People Finder. He's not in there as of Monday afternoon at about 3:45 p.m. So we'll keep checking for you. I did get excited. There's someone in there named Ewers in the Department of Athletics, not the same guy. So he is. Yes, he as soon
the
as
manager of the ice rink, I believe.
Oh, there you go. Quinn Ewers, is that what do you think he's making $1 million a year? Like Quinn Ewers is thinking he's going to?
Slightly less, guys, man. That's where the real money is.
That is a specialized skill for sure. Yeah, Quinn Ewers is not officially here. It is slightly annoying that we do get the quarterbacks for the first time in about 18 months. And the question that everyone's going to want to ask them is like, well, sorry, due to a paperwork snafu, we can't answer any of those questions right now. So it is going to be fascinating just what the reactions are like. And, I think you're going to, if you do get answers, it's going to be, hey, competition makes everyone better. And we're looking forward to having him on the team and yada, yada, yada. I mean, this is a really, really fascinating question because it's, guys enrolling early is not like completely unprecedented by any means. JT Daniels reclassified, Jake Bentley reclassified. I mean, Wilfredo Ibar, who was a defensive lineman at Ohio State, thought was going to reclassify 2021 for them, instead reclassified 2021, went to Stanford. So this is not like unprecedented, but the combination of the transfer portal and the uniquely high level of talent in the Ohio State quarterback room makes this, I mean, it is going to be crazy to see what does this mean for this year's Ohio State team in terms of snaps, in terms of does this chase someone out? Does this impact, who sticks around for the fall? And also spring of 2022, what does this mean in terms of, is it an open quarterback competition again in the spring of 2022? Does the guy who feels like he's in third place at that point hit the bricks? I mean, there is a lot of questions to be answered, and there's not a lot of precedent to fall back on in a circumstance like this.
There's no precedent. You're talking about, you've got 4 guys in the room that all have true freshman eligibility. Last year didn't count for CJ Stroud and Jack Miller. So you've got 4 guys who have 5 years left to play. And I will get into it, but I think you're going to be lucky to get 3 years of starting out of all 4 of those guys, because who's going to wait and who's going to stick around? I do think having the quarterbacks this early in media availabilities, that is a planned thing, because now it's, hey, how are the quarterbacks looking? Hey, Corey Dennis, how are the quarterbacks looking? He's just going to be like, we haven't even started practice yet. It's way too early. So this was an opportunity for Corey Dennis to be allowed to say nothing while answering questions, because what information can I give you? Yeah, it's wide open. I talk to me again in 3 weeks and I'll give you more. And of course, we're never going to talk to him again in 3 weeks, because there's a reason the quarterbacks are first. And so, it would have been nice to ask the quarterbacks about the quarterbacks, and we still can, and we still will, because as I said, it's one of the biggest stories in college football. But now, like in the past, before Joe Burrow, it was like you didn't like to bring up transferring to players, because it's kind of a jerk type of move to bring it up. But with quarterbacks and a transfer portal, I wonder if it already comes up day one, like day -1 of football camp tomorrow or on Tuesday. Does it come up? And it's like, you guys are already asking me about transferring. We have 25 fall camp practices to go through right now. I don't think any of these guys should be written off yet, but there's no way they're all 4 here in, this time in 2023, or even 2024. There's no way somebody's leaving, but I don't feel comfortable. I don't like asking the questions of these guys already, because I want to give them a chance.
Right. And, editorially on this show over the years, our policy has been, we don't specifically speculate on potential transfers, especially guys going out, unless they are talking openly about being a potential transfer. So Joe Burrow was kind of the famous exception to that, because Joe Burrow talked about, in the aftermath of the Cotton Bowl after 2017, he talked about the fact, do you want to be the starter at Ohio State? He's like, I want to be the starter somewhere. It's like, well, that rather opens up the question, doesn't it? So if people are talking openly about it, then it feels like we can talk openly about it. Where we don't want to do it is just sort of like speculate on, hey, this guy who's never thrown a pass in college, does he need to leave? Is he not good enough? That's where there's sort of a line there to me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably where we'll sort of continue it. Now, what will other people feel compelled to ask? And can, will people ask this question in a way that isn't, so are you so bad that you're not going to be able to stick around? Like there are ways to ask questions without asking the question and to, potentially get the answer you're looking for without necessarily asking the question in a tactless way. So for sure, that's going to be something that's, asked on Tuesday. I'm not sure how it will be answered, but I think it will be asked in some form.
You'll have the, what do you think about people saying that that you're going to transfer? And it's like, but you're one of the people saying he's going to transfer. So you're, and it's a common trick to put your own questions on the backs of others and say, hey, people are saying this. And really it's you are also one of those people, and you don't want to get the dirty look or whatever from that. And it's a tough question. It's a tough situation. And again, I don't want to write any of these guys off before they're even given a chance. And so, you look at these guys, 3 5-star guys, and Jack Miller. Poor Jack Miller, a lowly 4-star guy. He's the Dan Villari of Ohio State, which is, totally unfair. And he's a quality prospect and all of that. But it's easy for people just to look at the star ratings and that's the guy. And, let's see how things go through camp, and we'll get updates from Ryan Day, quote unquote updates from Ryan Day. And he said he wants to know a starter within 2 weeks of camp, starting. That way that guy has more time to get ready for this. Tom, I know people say Quinn Ewers is coming here to play this year. I don't know how much we talked about this on the emergency show that we did. Look, he can play 4 games. He can do that. There is no way, in my opinion, he starts a game this year unless something bad happens to at least 2 guys, and one guy is already transferred out, and then maybe you get him to start. But you can't come in here with, you get maybe 3 weeks of camp, and that's I'm sure he's had the playbook for months now, but he's also he's been planning his high school season. He's been focused on that. He's not been preparing for Ohio State. To me, there's no way this year he is competing for the job, and you can't even afford to give him too many reps because you're taking them away from guys who are actually going to need them.
Right. And, the path to him starting this year is a very, very bad one for Ohio State, because it means that 2 or possibly 3 other guys are, trapped under something heavy or otherwise unavailable. It's just, you think about when we were talking about Kyle McCord earlier in the year, and, all the conversations with him were, hey, Jack Miller, CJ Stroud, they've had an extra year in the system. They've spent it was a real wonky year, and they didn't get all the reps that you would get during a normal year, but they still had a year of a head start. Kyle McCord, who's third in that, has a half a year of a head start, including winter workouts, including spring ball, all this time working with Corey Dennis and Ryan Day. So now you're behind 3 guys, and this is not, you're not stuck behind 3, 3-star schlubs. You're stuck behind a couple 5-star guys, not just 4-star, but a pretty high 4-star. I think he was Miller was around a top 100 player, who have a year or 2 head start on you. I mean, that's very, very difficult. And, I know he's coming here and says he's coming here to compete for the job. Realistically, that's going to be almost impossible to do. I do expect, fourth quarter of the Akron game, I do expect we're going to see him trotting on the field. I do expect you're probably going to have more fans in the stands for the fourth quarter of the Akron game than you would have for a normal Ohio State by 70 kind of game. I do expect that will be the loudest cheer of the day. Will be when they announce Quinn Ewers to come out with 4.5 minutes left in the game and Ohio State up 82-2. But I don't think it's realistic to expect him to be, playing and contributing. because you have all that stuff. And then you also have the off-field concerns, which is, so if Quinn Ewers is starting this year, how many of the other three guys are here next summer/fall? And the answer, I think, rhymes with none. So wait, no, that would be one. So I guess the answer rhymes with one, and it's none. Sorry. I think you have the off-field concerns there, the on-field realities there. That's all going to conspire to make it pretty much not possible for him to start this year. If towards the end of the year you have health concerns, transfers, whatever, and you have to start him, like, I mean, okay, I guess you figured out at that point. But every time we talk to quarterbacks, they talk about how that second year they know so much more than the first year. This is still Kyle McCord's first year. This is the start of Quinn Ewers' first year. You know, he's this time next year you can maybe have that conversation about the fact that, oh, the light's starting to come on. It just, that doesn't seem realistic for any time this fall. And, you know, maybe you're starting to have that conversation next spring a little bit, but that may even be like next fall camp at this point.
And I know people will say, but look at his recruiting rankings, and that's all well and good. But Tom, I want to, I'm going to list you some guys here. The just recruiting rankings aren't the end all be all. Here's an example: the 2016 top quarterback rankings that year. Number 1, Shea Patterson, the number 4 player overall, number 1 quarterback. Number 2
Ole Miss
quarterback,
legend, yes. Ole Miss legend, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Number 2 quarterback, Jacob Eason, Georgia legend, who also transferred like Shea Patterson did. The number 3 quarterback, KJ Costello, who I think stayed his entire time at Stanford.
I believe that's true, yes.
Number 4 quarterback, Malik Henry, who did not. Number 5 quarterback, Felipe Franks, who did not. Number 6 quarterback, Brandon Peters, who is now at Illinois. Number 7 quarterback, Jarrett Garantano, who I believe stayed at Tennessee.
He transferred somewhere. He transferred somewhere. Yeah, I was reading a preview for some team, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was like, wait, is there another quarterback named Jarrett Garantano? I'm like, no, that actually is the same quarterback, I believe. Yeah.
And then the number 8 quarterback in that class was Dwayne Haskins.
Who?
He 1-year starter.
Okay. Yeah. Bust. Got it. Okay.
Bust. Yes. You could only start for 1 year at Ohio State. And really, to bring this full circle, we're going to see, I mean, we could see quite a bit of the 1-year starters at Ohio State here in the very near future. Although I think it was more likely to be that way had Quinn Ewers stayed in the 2022 class and created a year of separation. Because now, had he stayed in 2022, I would have seen it as Stroud in 21, 20, and 22. Kyle McCord, because he has that year of experience in 2023. And then Kyle McCord is a redshirt sophomore in 2023. Plays well, goes pro. Quinn Ewers comes in 2024 as that redshirt sophomore. And it would be like the 3rd straight redshirt sophomore to leave early for the Buckeyes. And now people were like, yeah, but what does it matter? Quinn Ewers in a year early. Like, it matters because there may be nobody in 2024 now. Like, you don't know who's going to wait. You don't know who's going to, if somebody does CJ Stroud stay for 3 years as a starter. If so, that would be great. Is it likely? Sure, it doesn't seem likely because it's only JT Barrett did it. He didn't really have anywhere else to go. The guys who have somewhere to go have been leaving, and I tweeted this out, or I wrote it on the message board or something. Oh no, I wrote a piece about it. How from like 1977 to Troy Smith, Ohio State, their starting quarterback was either a senior or would start until he was a senior and start as a senior. And then you went from Troy Smith to JT Barrett before you had that again. And so, like, the days of having a senior quarterback at Ohio State are gone for now, except for transfer portal guys who will have to maybe come in and rescue Ohio State from like the 2024 season when they may have nobody. Tom, this is an unprecedented time, and each year is going to be its own adventure. And to even try to look into 2024 is kind of a fool's errand, but you have to, because you've got 4 guys in one class, and now you've got do you go try to get a 2022 guy? We know they're trying, or they're at least kicking some tires, so they're interested in it. makes the 2023 class even more important, but also maybe makes the 2023 class more likely. It just it's hard to project, but I mean, you can't just operate like, we'll be fine.
Yeah, you definitely cannot. You cannot just kind of hand wave it. That there's not, as we said earlier, there's not a lot of precedent here, but you can kind of see that realistically, you're not keeping all four of these guys for the next 4 seasons. That's just not going to happen. You might keep 2. That would probably be, if you told me the over under of the number of these guys who is on the roster in 2023 for the season opener, I think I might set it about 1.5. That's, that's probably about right. And I don't know whether I'd go over or under that number. It's that's just the reality of the situation. And another example of that is Jarrett Garantano, who you mentioned earlier, who is currently at Washington State. It would have taken me a while to remember that that's where I saw that, but I was thumbing through my Phil Steele last week and went, wait, what? The same guy? Yeah. So that's yes, Jarrett Garantano is at Washington State now. But I mean, you go through that list of quarterbacks you read through, and it's like transferred. These are guys who come in with the expectation they are going to, everyone comes in with the expectation there's going to be a 3-year starter and a first-round NFL draft pick. Now, the reality, of course, is that isn't how it works for everyone. But when you are a highly touted recruit as a quarterback, you are expecting to come in and play, and you're expected to go, use your talents, have a good college career, and then go get a big NFL contract. And the reality of the quarterback position is you can't play 4 guys at the same time. This is not wide receiver where you can have a 6 wide receiver rotation. Every once in a while, you see teams try and do a 2 quarterback rotation, and sometimes it goes okay, and sometimes it goes really not okay. And a lot of teams will not want to do that as a result of the history of things sometimes not going okay at all when you do 2 quarterback rotation. So then if you're not the starter, or you feel like you're in real danger of losing your starting job, you hop in the portal. That's because someone else wants you. You are, you all the stuff that made you highly touted as a recruit. Other people see that and say, well, I would like that to run my program. And you might even get guaranteed a starting job at a slightly lower level of college. That's appealing because you want to play, so you can earn, show the scouts what you can do and earn that big fat NFL contract. So and now you've got the NIL piece of this as well, where if you're the starting quarterback at Illinois, let's talk about Brandon Peters. Brandon Peters was the 3rd string quarterback at Michigan in 2017 behind John O'Korn and Wilton Spate. Ended up transferring to Illinois. If you're the starting quarterback at Illinois, Illinois is, we all know what Illinois football is, but if you're the starting quarterback at Illinois, outside of maybe a couple star basketball players, you are probably about as big man on campus as it gets. So you're going to have a lot more NIL opportunities at Illinois than you would as the 3rd string guy at Michigan, probably. So, there's that factor in it as well. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces that go into it here, but, to me, ultimately it all kind of points to things are going to get a little thin on the depth chart. But I suspect that Ryan Day also has a good sense that that's probably, he's probably not keeping all 4 of these guys for the next 3 years. So, maybe we've talked about, you try and bring in, a kind of a lower ranked in-state kid just to, come in and be the backup kind of guy. Maybe you find a 3-star Ohio kid in 2022 just to have another body on the depth chart to sort of anticipate, hey, someone may leave. And, and then you go hard, harder in 2023 than you might have otherwise. Because now 2023, all of a sudden you can sell, well, you've got a couple of years of separation away from everyone else. And, who's the kind of 5-star guy. There was the concern, can you get a 2023 guy when you've had Stroud, Miller, and then McCord, and then Ewers the years before, are you going to be able to talk a 5-star 2023 kid into doing it? Maybe now that's an easier sell.
Dante Moore up in Michigan, a 5-star 2023 quarterback being the first that comes to mind, which would just torture Michigan fans even more as they watch Ohio State's quarterback situation going on right now. And it is the first worldest of first world problems what is going on at Ohio State right now. And I'm calling it a problem. I'm certainly in the minority. I probably in doing so. I don't think Quinn Ewers coming to Ohio State this year is a good thing for the program, for Ewers' development as an Ohio State quarterback, because it starts his clock, his impatience. It gets as soon as he arrives, you only have so much patience, and as soon as he arrives, that clock starts ticking. And had he arrived in 2022, yes, I'm coming in to try to start, just like Kyle McCord is this year. But also knowing if I don't win the job, that's not it's not unheard of, and there will be other opportunities. And if I have to sit for a year or two, I can do that and then still start for 2 or 3 years if I want to do that. But with Quinn Ewers coming in now, his clock gets going. And does he want to, if he had come in 2022, if he sits for 2022 and 2023, that's not the end of the world. But now, sitting for 3 years, he's not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Kyle McCord is either. And you get the situation where I think those are possibly the 2 highest rated quarterbacks Ohio State has signed since Terrell Pryor. And then you add in Justin Fields. You could Justin Fields and these 2 guys, you may get 3 years total of starting out of these guys, and it would just be such a kick in the gut to land such talent and only have it for so little. And of course, who knows? Maybe the best thing is for McCord or Ewers to win it. And again, we don't think Ewers is going to win it, but this has changed the complexion a little bit, where Kyle McCord winning the job this year would have been bad for Ohio State in terms of viewers or whatever else. Now it almost becomes maybe that's the best thing, because then you at least have the same starter for 3 years. But Tom, I'll then say, we could talk about this in a little bit. I was in the camp where whoever wins it this year is going to win it next year. I'm no longer in that camp. It's going to be open each year, because you can't bring these guys in and not give them a chance, a real chance. And these guys are so talented that they might be able to take the job from a starter.
Yeah, I think I'm exactly there with you on that one. Let's just say it's CJ Stroud. I think that's sort of the general assumption, is it's going to be CJ Stroud. So if it's CJ Stroud this year, that spring 2022 quarterback competition is going to be wild, because you've got 3, potentially 4 guys if all 4 stick around fighting for the job at that point. I mean, and you've got incredible talent on from all 4 of them, and some of the strongest arms you've seen, and incredible high school level results. And you go back to 2018 when it was Dwayne Haskins and Joe Burrow, and it was kind of the same thing, where it was 2 guys who were very highly ranked guys. Burrow was not a 5-star by any means, but Haskins was a very highly ranked guy and talented guys, and they had been in the system for a little while. And and I think that may be a little bit of a indication of how this could play out. Is you've got a couple guys, and whoever doesn't win the job is may decide to leave. At least one of them, and may go on to have a good career somewhere else. And the Burrow thing, the Dwayne Haskins, Joe Burrow, did Ohio State pick the right guy conversation? You've seen that 100,000 times. In the end, Dwayne Haskins had a much better 2018 than Joe Burrow did. And then Dwayne Haskins left, and then Joe Burrow stuck around for 2019 and had a far better year than Dwayne Haskins did the year before. And it's well, did Ohio State make the right decision there or the wrong decision there? And I think there's a pretty good argument to be made that they made the right decision there, which is kind of what you would expect. Because, these are people that Ryan Day has the opportunity to evaluate, and Urban Meyer back then had the opportunity to evaluate in person over long periods of time and really get to know them. And I think it's pretty unquestionable that at least, in the 2018 season, Dwayne Haskins was a better quarterback than Joe Burrow was. Had Dwayne Haskins stuck around for another year, maybe Dwayne Haskins is putting up those incredible numbers, but you have to kind of make the right decision for your team at that point. And, a year from now will sort itself out. A year from now, that's, and Ohio State did just fine in the quarterback department in 2019 because they brought in Justin Fields, and that worked out just fine. And then, they were better off in the quarterback position in 2020 than LSU was, because Joe Burrow then left, and then they had a new quarterback, and Ohio State had the returning starter in Justin Fields. So, I would argue that Ohio State has probably been better than LSU at the quarterback position 2 of the last 3 years. So I think that's a pretty good argument that they made the right decision, even though, the Burrow thing in 2019, I think a lot of Ohio State fans are probably going, but what if we kept him? Wouldn't that have been a fun thing? So these are very complicated decisions. There's a lot of moving parts here, but I think in the end, if you're an Ohio State fan, you probably just have to defer to Ryan Day's, knowledge. And, Ryan Day knows a lot more about the quarterback position than you do. And Ryan Day has a lot more information about each of these individual players than you do. So you kind of have to just sort of trust that Ryan Day is going to make the right decision here and Corey Dennis is going to make the right decision here. And, the chips are going to fall where they may after that point, but you have to kind of just trust the process, trust the people that have shown that they really know what they're doing. And, it may not work out for whatever reason, due to injuries or whatever, but you have to kind of just sort of trust that they're going to make the right decision here. And then whatever happens after that happens after that.
Now, when you say that Ryan Day knows more about the quarterback position than you do, when you say you do, you're talking to the listeners. You're not talking to me, right?
Obviously, yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure that I think with the Burrow Haskins thing, everybody made the correct decision. Like Joe Burrow made the right decision to leave and go be with LSU, and Ohio State made the correct decision by keeping the better quarterback in 2018. Joe Burrow stays at Ohio State in 2019. Who's starting for Ohio State last year? Is it C.J. Stroud as a true freshman? Is it Tate Martell, perhaps? Gosh, so many heartbreaking what ifs in that whole saga that I think things worked out well for everybody as they happened, and the common denominator there is Ryan Day, and you just assume whether I think he could start a true freshman quarterback, and they would certainly contend and likely win the Big Ten, and you just have to figure out which game that true freshman quarterback is going to lose for you, since they tend to lose one somewhere. But I think you've seen what he can do with the veteran starter like JT Barrett. We see him pick somebody out of the transfer portal. So, while this whole Ewers coming in and you've got 4 quarterbacks and you're going to lose however many, and you're going to lose them sooner than you would like, because I don't think any one of the 4 is going to be here for 5 years, right?
Right.
Any one of the 4 is going to be here for 4 years at the most. You would hope that 2 of them would stick around that long, but is a backup going to stick around for 4 years? That those days are gone. I think I don't want to say forever. For now, they're gone, and so that's where the transfer portal comes in. But I feel pretty confident that in this era of free agency that college football is now in, if you have a top quarterback nationally who is wherever, and like a Sam Howell, just say, and there's Ohio State has a true freshman and nobody else, and you're like, I'm Sam Howell or whomever could be like the difference between a national title and not, and you're thinking, do I want to go 8-4 at North Carolina, or do I want to go 15-0 at Ohio State, knowing also that Ohio State has cranked out 3 or 4 straight first round quarterbacks. Not Sam Howell. That's just an example. He's going to be first rounder with whomever. But in 3 years, whoever that is, which if Ohio State would stop signing all the top quarterbacks, then we would know who's going to be out there for somebody from another team. But one of these 5 stars in 2022 is very likely to be an Ohio State Buckeye in 2024. Somebody they don't sign is likely to be on the roster. So while you're watching the ones that get away, that got away, don't be surprised if one of them ends up starting for your Buckeyes in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State fans have figured out at this point that the transfer portal giveth and the transfer portal taketh away. That is how this works. And I think Ohio State in general is going to lose more, in terms of just numbers in the portal than they will gain, just because of the nature of Ohio State and the level that Ohio State plays at. There's a lot of places you can leave Ohio State and go get more playing time if that's what you're interested in. And you've seen a lot of that with crowded depth charts at wide receiver and places, other spots in the field like that. There are not a lot of people who are playing at a lower level school who have Ohio State level talent that can come in like a Justin Fields, like a Jonah Jackson has, like a potentially like a Paulie Naoteote, where you're coming in from another school and you have the opportunity to come play for Ohio State. And there's not a lot of guys who are necessarily going to give up a starting spot somewhere else and then come to Ohio State and, be willing to be a backup somewhere. I mean, like, I'm going back to like John Kerr, when John Kerr was the leading tackler at Indiana as a freshman, as a linebacker, and he came to Ohio State. And I'm sure he didn't come to Ohio State intentionally planning to be a backup, but he really was not, he never led the Buckeyes in tackles after he got to Ohio State. So there's, I think the transfer portal is inherently going to, just by its nature, take more from Ohio State than it gives. But you're exactly right in that when you have one specific hole to fill, a lot of times they're going to be able to do that. I think, there was some thought that they would be able to do that at corner this year, and that hasn't happened. That hasn't panned out. But, they've added the offensive lineman in Jackson, the quarterback in Fields, the linebacker in Naote this offseason. They've been able to patch, some of those potential holes here and there. So it is not an all bad thing for Ohio State. I think on the whole, it has probably been a net positive for Ohio State, even though in terms of pure numbers, they've lost way more than they've taken in.
I think this Quinn Ewers coming in this year decreases his odds of ever starting a game at Ohio State or ever becoming the starting quarterback at Ohio State. Anybody can start a game at Ohio State in terms of like injuries or whatever. The scenarios are many, but I think by him entering now and getting his head start, I think it decreases his chances of ever becoming the quarterback at Ohio State, because he's the same eligibility as CJ Stroud and Jack Miller, who have more experience, same eligibility as Kyle McCord, who has more experience. We don't expect Quinn Ewers to win the job this year. So he's going to be playing catch up the entire time. And he's playing catch up with guys who are the same grade as he is. And he's going to be doing this while thinking I could go somewhere else and start immediately or relatively soon. Certainly, I don't have to wait another year to go do it. Like if he doesn't win the job in 2022 out of spring, or Ryan Day can't tell him, well, you've got a pretty good chance. To me, this certainly decreases his chances of ever starting at Ohio State. Where are you on that?
That's a very interesting question, because I think really that question gets down to, what is Quinn Ewers' mindset? Mm-hmm. Is Quinn Ewers' mindset that he's coming in this year to just learn and, try and come in and learn the playbook and get accustomed to college and just get a little bit of a head start on early enrolling? If that's the case, then I think it makes it more likely. If he's coming in really, truly thinking in his head that he has the opportunity to win the starting job this fall, then it probably makes it less likely. Because it's just, as you were talking about earlier, you're kind of starting that clock in their head. You're literally starting the NFL clock, where now after the 2023 season, he's eligible for the draft, but you're also starting the clock in his head. And, I'm sure this is, if you are the number one player in the entire nation, you are probably thinking NFL thoughts and thinking about being on the stage with Roger Goodell and being the number one pick in the draft and all that kind of stuff. And so starting early now in your brain, that is now no longer the 2025 NFL draft after the 24 season. Now it's the 2024 NFL draft after the 23 season. And if you're in the spring of 2022 or the spring of 2023, you're now not confident that you're going to win the job, or you're not sure you're going to get a fair shake or whatever, that maybe does make you less likely to stick it out. Now, there's a lot of what ifs involved in that whole scenario. And what is his mindset coming in really? Does he, is he really thinking he's going to win the starting job this fall? Is he really thinking he just wants to be able to compete for the starting job next spring? Because if you're looking to compete for the starting job next spring, I think you're going to have an opportunity. And I think you're going to have three guys who are very talented, maybe four guys if everyone does stick around, who are very, very talented and have a real, you're going to be given a fair shot to win that job. They have been, Ryan Day is no fool. Ryan Day knows if players are really not getting a shot, they're going to figure that out and they're going to move on. So yeah, I will be interested. That's why I said in 2023, I think that's when I'm at like 1.5 of these guys are still on the roster, because 2023 season opener, you've gone this season, you've got, you might lose a guy after this season or at some point during the season. You go through next season, and at some point maybe in there you lose a guy, or let's say CJ Stroud's the starter the next 2 years. CJ Stroud is then eligible for the NFL draft, and he goes to the draft, and someone else is transferred, and then have you lost one or two of the other guys? That's kind of where the question is in my mind, because if Ewers is really coming in and thinking he's going to start this fall, that I think would be a concern to me, and at that point, I don't know if. I think this is going to be a very exciting fall. I think this is going to be a really interesting fall and spring, with all these guys on campus. But yeah, at that point, I do wonder if he is really coming in thinking he's going to start. I do wonder if that maybe makes it less likely he ultimately does start.
But even if he's coming in not thinking he's going to start, he's still spending time on campus, and the clock is still going. So like he could tell himself, yeah, this is just to get my bearings, and I know, yes, I do want to play, and I do think I can play in some games, but I know I'm unlikely to start. But then in year two, it's still year two. It's not year one 2.0. It's year two, and so that accrues, and so I he may be able to have the patient mentality in year one, but how long can he keep that mentality? And that goes for all of these guys. And what happens if CJ Stroud wins the job, loses it next year, or is not necessarily the starter out of spring, and now that's now maybe your starter is transferring, and the only way to combat this is by continuing to bring in as many as will come in, these top flight guys, knowing that this guy may never play. But if he does, he's going to be really good, even if it's only for 1 year, or it's, as Ryan Day said at Big Ten Media Days, like, yeah, I wish I could, I wish we could name a starter and that's going to be the guy for 3 years. But history has showed me that's not going to be the case. And it's not. And even if CJ Stroud wins the job, I don't think he's a 3-year starter. Is he? Like, he's a 2-year starter and then you go to the NFL because that's just what they do. But man, we talked about this already, but I've come around to where just because you're the starter this year, I don't know that means much next year, and it can't. If you want to keep everybody here as long as possible, there can't. The thing we keep hearing about Master Teague, he's the incumbent. Nobody's saying he's the starter, and I think that's an important qualification. And whoever wins the job this year will be the incumbent in the spring. But I don't think they'll be named the starter until that same 2 weeks before the first game.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're wondering, all these 5-star quarterbacks potentially transferring out, is that going to hurt Ohio State in recruiting future 5-star quarterbacks? I don't know that it is, because I think when you're a 5-star quarterback, the same mentality that has you thinking, I'm going to come on campus and win the starting job in the fall, that same mentality is also going, well, that's, yes, if you're not as good as me, then you have to transfer out. But I mean, we all know that I'm the most amazing quarterback in history, which is just, that's not like me psychoanalyzing. That's just sort of like, when you get to a certain point, there is a certain type of person that, there's a certain level of confidence and expectation that is required to get to the level of athletic performance we're talking about here. That is the type of person we're talking about. So I don't know that necessarily is, well, you got to look at the, look at the 5-star quarterbacks who have left. It's like, yes, but look at the 5-star quarterbacks who've stayed. Like, I think that's ultimately, and whether it's CJ Stroud or Jack Miller or Kyle McCord or Quinn Ewers, who ends up starting in 2021 or 2022, they're going to be successful. They're going to put up big numbers. They are probably going to have it, put them together a nice NFL draft case. And Ryan Day can point and go, yes, but look at him. And that's something that is only going to help. And, when you're recruiting a 2023 quarterback, if you've got a guy who is setting school records and a Heisman finalist and getting drafted in the top 10 of the NFL draft, like, guess what? Everyone's watching the NFL draft and watching your guy put on a hat and going, in 3 years, that's going to be me.
I think we've pretty well covered the Ewers thing. Do you have anything else you want to touch on with Quinn Ewers before I get into other bad recruiting news for Ohio State?
I think we've more than covered the Quinn Ewers news, and I suspect that this shan't be the last time we discuss Quinn Ewers on this podcast, possibly even this week.
Well, I mean, you've got the daily morning scoop, maybe like a daily Quinn Ewers show. like the latest with Quinn Ewers, I bet I know it has to happen. One of us, Kirk, is going to have to go to the airport and wait for him.
I see no problem with any of this. That's fine as long as it's Kirk. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, any of us, as long as it's Kirk. So the other news, recruiting news in the past week: Jaheim Singletary decommitted, 5-star corner. Buckeyes still have 3 corners committed, maybe 4 if Kai Stokes is a corner instead of a safety. Before that, Benji Gosnell, tight end, decommitted. Ohio State still has Bennett Christian, so that's really, I think they're fine there, and they've got a pretty deep room of tight ends as well. So, the Jaheim Singletary thing is bad, yes, but Ohio State has 5 cornerbacks with technically true freshman eligibility this year on the roster, bringing in another 3 or 4 in 2022. At some point, you need to start getting older, or things need to spread out. So I don't think that not bringing in 9 corners in a 2-year stretch is a bad thing. Like, yes, losing Jaheim Singletary is not good, but the good news is there's room for other people to play, and there's just that's a lot of guys in a 2-year stretch. So yeah, it's you'd rather have him than not, but I don't think only having 8 guys instead of 9 in a 2-year stretch is a terrible thing.
You don't want to lose him, and losing him is unquestionably a blow. Now the question is, there's a long way to go till signing day, and you're hearing people talk about Miami, and this is the time of year when Miami looks great, and then Miami has to go on the football field, and it's like, yes, Miami. Now I remember. So there's a long way to go till signing day, but this is not quite as devastating as it would have been a couple of years ago when they had critical needs at the cornerback position and they were desperately short. You've had a couple big classes now in a row where now that room is restocked. And is it restocked entirely with 5-star talent like Jaheim Singletary? No, but there is talent in that room. There's some depth in that room that is far greater than it was a couple of years ago. So they have the opportunity to potentially win him back. They have the opportunity to, there's plenty of time. This is not, Jordan Battle or Clark Phillips flipping on the eve of signing day where it's and now there's no time to fix this problem. There's plenty of time to fix that problem. You have Kerry Combs has the next 6 months or 5 months to sort of figure out, okay, how does he want to solve that issue? Never bet against Kerry Combs, and is a sort of a good rule of thumb. And, this is also not entirely unexpected, not only specifically in terms of Singletary, but just the position on the whole. There's been talk about J.R. Brown. There's been talk about Ryan Turner. I mean, there's been talk about, how, out of these 4 guys, how many are going to sign, and the over under seems like most people are around 2.5. So you'd rather have, if someone's going to leave, you'd rather have them leave now rather than on December 15th when it's too late to do anything about it. So now they can go out and pursue someone else. They can continue to pursue Singletary, try and get him back in the fold. But this is bad news for Ohio State, but this is also not a complete disaster for Ohio State for any of the above named reasons.
Yeah, you don't want to lose anybody else at this point, I don't think, because once you've done that, now you're starting to scramble. And Will Johnson is still there in Michigan, but it doesn't sound like that's really going to happen. And Damani Jackson's not going to happen. And kid from Texas, another one. It's
Denver Harris.
Thank you. The guys are in their spots, so you want to make sure that this is it. All right, there's no reason for you guys to be concerned anymore. The best corner in the class is somewhere else. You guys don't have to be scared of them anymore. Not that they are, but your opportunity for playing has just increased, and so you don't need to be looking around.
I do like you talking about a Michigan commit right after I talked about the fact that this is the time of year when Miami looks best. It's that conversation can apply to other schools as well, and entire coaching staffs that may or may not be there in January when players enroll. I mean, there's a long way to go till signing day. If there's one lesson you should take away about recruiting is there's always a long way to go till signing day, and a lot of stuff that can change between here and there. So that's worth keeping in mind, because there's I think I read the tweet, and I'll just have to paraphrase it here because I don't have it pulled up, but the best recruiting tweet of all time, where someone said they were 110% committed to LSU but we'll be, still be taking all my visits. Like, well, but that what? And anyway, so that's recruiting.
Out of 1,000%, Tom. 110% committed. Yeah, that is recruiting. It's fun. Sometimes it's more fun than other times. Other times you just get devastated news like, guess what? Quinn Ewers is coming to town, and now you got to deal with it. So
guess what? Ohio State has somehow added the number one player overall in the class of 2021 and 2022 in the span of a month during the summer, when we're normally 6 months one direction or the other from signing days. Like what? And somehow we're all just kind of like, yeah, this is a normal. This is a thing that happens now. Okay, sure. Just smile and nod, and we'll just keep doing podcasts about it. It's fine.
Yeah. Over the past year and a half, like everything is normal. There is no abnormal. It's just all normal. It's just, oh, of course. Why wouldn't it?
As one does. Yes.
Perfect. So I think that will do it then. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. A reminder to check out BuckeyeScoop.com. Camp starts on Wednesday, and we will be on campus 3 or 4 times a week for the next few weeks with interviews, players, coaches. Ryan Day, we'll get to see a little bit of practice. So we are going to be providing all kinds of shows. Tom and I were talking about it before this show about when exactly are we going to be dropping all of this, and what exactly are we going to be dropping, because there's going to be we'll get to see a little bit of practice here and there. We'll talk about it. There's going to be so many shows. So check us out on youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. Obviously, all of your podcast platforms. We're going to be doing, there's going to be other podcasts as well. Scoop World Order, Gives in the Bank, the Sloopcast guys. I mean, it's the time of year where there's a bunch of football stuff to talk about. And so there's going to be a lot of talking about it. So I hope you are ready. We are. Tom, are you ready?
I am ready. I'm just wondering at which point we need to change the name of the show again to Buckeye Daily, because it feels like once you're above 4 episodes a week, you're more than halfway. So you're rounding up. So
yeah,
we probably need to have an editorial meeting about that at some point soon too.
I don't know. Will Google get angry if we change the name again? I don't know. We'll see. Yes, so many shows coming. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. Plenty of stuff to talk about, and who knows what's coming next. Yeah, we're going to talk about camp, but who knows what's going to come out of the sky at any point in terms of now this 2024 Jaden Davis. He's like, hey, yeah, I'm 13 years old, but I want to enroll. I'm like a kid genius.
Yeah, I don't know who the number one kid in 2027 is, but he's definitely going to be on campus at Ohio State at some point in the next 3 to 4 weeks, based on the last couple months.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned on this show before, when I was at Ohio State, my freshman or sophomore year, there's a 10-year-old taking classes in one of my classes. And this is actual college, Tom. I wasn't back taking 5th grade courses. Like an actual 10-year-old. The Lantern even did a story on it. He was like writing his first computer software program when he was like 3 years old. I was like 6 when I did it, but whatever. I'm not here to brag. I'm not here to belittle others because they had to wait till they were 9 or 25, whatever. But anyway, that will do it for today's show. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we will probably talk to you at some point tomorrow.